Hello, Charlie TCG here, and welcome back to my channel. You guys loved it when I talked about the expanded format just a few weeks ago, talking about the results from the Champions League over in Japan. So what better place to look at what the best decks are to play right now in expanded. Again, these are my opinion. There are so many different decks to play in expanded. Heck, you could even play likes of Gouging Fire, and even Zoroark could definitely make some good contentions into this one, but they're just shy of the list. So I'm going to talk to you about the decks which have been performing very well in the Champions League, as well as also the decks which have been performing well in Japan, as well as also on the online events as well. So without further ado, let's jump right into the video. My number 5 pick is Raichu. I love this card. It is super fun from an Electro Rain attack. Pretty much get to discard any lightning entries attached to this one, and pretty much do 30 damage to any of your opponent's Pokemon, however you like. How is this powered up? You have Electro GX, you get to knock it out, then flood your board with lots of energies. This is very powerful. You pretty much can try and win as early as turn 2 by trying to get out a ton of really good energies, like reversal energy and counter energy, making sure that they're pretty much like 2 energies, even 3 lightning energies attached to us, which is really strong. You can see from the results, it did pretty well. Getting second place, top 16 and top 32 is not too shabby at all. The cost range is a little bit high, but that's because of one particular card. I think it is definitely a lot more of a budget-friendlier deck compared to the other ones on this list. Now, this is kind of like the rough version of the archetype right now. You might go, why is there a 1-2 line of Raichu or 2-3 Electrode? Now, you're never going to use more than 2 Electro GX because you don't want to pretty much get your opponent all the prizes, because that is one of the limitations of Electro GX. But we do have the Ditto Prism Star, which pretty much activates as another Voltorb or Pikachu, because it basically is any basic Pokemon. The rest of the stuff is very nice and straightforward. You play lots of drawing factors like Dedenne and Crobat and Tapu Lele and Swallow, try and get that setup, trying to get that turn 2 alone and Raichu's Electro Rain attack, and Skyfall definitely helps you with that. One of the things which definitely you can struggle with, because you are that setup to attack, you're not going to do really anything until turn 2 of the game. So you have that Gengar Mimikyu GX, which is pretty much where a lot of the budget for this deck really comes from, with that Horror House GX, making sure your opponent can't play any trainer cards, which is honestly one of the saving grace of this deck. It helps you get that setup ability, and you can see here the rest of it is very strong. Battle compressor getting energies in the discard pile, and yeah, it's just a very fun, unique deck, which I think is doing very well. And if one of the Heavenly Kings players and got second place, you know that this deck is very fun in expanded. My number 4 pick actually goes to likes of Palkia. Now, Palkia is very good in the online sort of scene. Beat 6% on the meta, did get that big win for the tournament just before Christmas. And I do think it's pretty much a very cost-effective deck, because a lot of the stuff you already have is going to be from the previous format, which we've kind of used to how good Palkia is, and just got that little bit of an update. Now you can see here there are a few new cards additions to this one. One thing which you could be missing is the likes of what's it called again? Aqua Patch. Aqua Patch is pretty powerful. It's basically Dark Patch for water Pokemon. But this deck doesn't need it because you obviously have Palkia V-Star's ability. There's also Melanie, so why don't you use your supporter, draw additional cards, and Energy Accelerate at the same time? Just seems just a little bit stronger. Another card which you might go like, why is this in here? It's a 2-2 line of Toadstool. I talked about this a lot a few months ago. If you haven't checked out that video, the link will be in the description. But pretty much limiting your opponent from getting anything from their discard pile is really strong. Think about how powerful RegDraco is. Heck, even likes of BS Seeker, stopping that sort of effect is really good in the expanded format. And I think that's a really good inclusion, especially for Palkia still. Giraffree is still a must in this deck. Trying lost some key pieces, heck, even getting rid of some special energies, or even the likes of some supporter cards your opponent some access to, is just really good. Sorry, it is a basic, yeah, it is that, which is very strong. I do think that Palkia is a pretty good contention. Having likes of Master Plan and Skyfall means the damage can pretty much one-hit kill everything. I'm a big fan of Palkia, but this also could be the place of a Gouging Fire, which I was very pleasantly surprised. It did get that top 8 at the Champions League, and I do think that Gouging Fire is still a very good contention. But right now, I do think that Palkia just has a little bit of an edge to it right now, and I really like how Palkia has evolved, because it's still very much similar. Like, if you played Standard the last few years, you pretty much have most of the Palkia deck already built up. Now we get to the big heavy hitters. My number 3 pick, it actually goes to RegDraco. Now this is a absolutely beast of a deck. Now you might go, but RegDraco is legal right now, and it's basically a tier 4, maybe even tier 5 deck, because Apex Dragon isn't as good right now. It's really difficult to energy accelerate. Well, you may say this here, but in expanded format, oh boy, is it strong. You now have access to the likes of Double Dragon Energy, which pretty much is a double Rainbow Energy for Dragon-type Pokemon. You also have some amazing attacks. The Noise Vent really limit your opponent. The Mega Rayquaza to do 300 damage, and Dialga to steal an additional turn. There are so many ways around this one. Plus, even team up with likes of Garbodor, shutting down from abilities from the opponent's side is really, really strong. Stopping even likes of an Archeops or even the likes of any control decks is really, really strong. And they are absolutely teamed up with very, very powerful attackers. Just look at the Champions League results and even look at the online meta share as well. It's very, very strong. And even the cost of a deck, I would say, is pretty affordable in the expanded sort of scene. Because let's not forget, a lot of these cards play A specs, which are very, very expensive compared to now where most of them will be paying like some Prime Catcher. But if we just look at the deck here, we can see it's pretty much very similar to the likes of the deck, which is pretty really well in the top 4 at the Champions League. There are a few good key cards in this one. One thing I love about this one is playing the Gudra. Gudra pretty much makes sure you can heal a few sort of attacks, reducing any of your opponent's damage while still doing pretty good damage output is really, really strong. I love the Noivern to slow down your opponent, and like I said, the Dialga Mega Rayquaza to sometimes do additional turns or do these big one-hit KOs. Chuck a Muscle Band on, Mega Rayquaza, well, the attack of that on your RegDraco through 320 damage. Pretty much KO nearly every single thing in the format right now, which is definitely relevant. Like I mentioned before, you do play a 2-2 line of Garbodor. This can be easily powered up by having a float onto this one very easily to try and gain that additional turn. Sorry, this additional lock of your opponent. Now, we do play some very, very key support Pokemon. I do think that the Nightmane Necrozma is really good. It's basically the Keldeo, so it's that Russian retreat sort of attack. It's your free retreat pivot option if you don't have the likes of Garbodor out in play. You also play Scoop Up Cyclone because it works perfectly in the likes of Gudra, making sure you can kind of get that energy acceleration, also that healing factor is really, really strong. The Mysterious Treasure is also good to get that discard effect of your Pokemon in the discard pile, but also get your Dragon pieces. It's absolutely powerhouse of a deck. I love this archetype. I think it's super, super powerful right now in the expanded format. There's only a few decks which are just a little bit above it. And now, of course, goes to Lugia. Now you might go, I feel like definitely RegDraco has overtaken the likes of Lugia. But in my honest opinion, I do think Lugia just has a little bit of the edge because when this works, it is absolutely insanely powerful. Yes, it has a pretty good results and the online meta share is pretty good. But right now we know that lots of people who play Lugia have already got the key pieces. They've got the Lugia, they've got the Archeops. The only thing they would need is the likes of the GXs. They're big, powerful tag teams. And I do think the Dragons is still the best way to play it. We did see this past weekend, a few weekends ago now, we did see that some Lugia decks were kind of like veering away from the likes of the Dragons, but I still think the Dragon build is the strongest one. It's the clear-cut best version, I would say, of how you play Lugia. Now you have 3 very good packers, Garchomp and Giratina tag team, so it's also the Naganadel and Guzzlord. Now, Garchomp is really powerful because pretty much it has that 220 snipe, which is a really, really scary sort of threat, especially in anything in the meta where you can pretty much KO a lot of support Pokemon because in Expanded, you play a lot of support Pokemon, so I do think that is one of the best things about it. We also have that, obviously, the Giratina and the Garchomp tag team. The reason why this is good because you have that GGN, which have additional more energies. You pretty much get to just KO two of your opponent's Pokemon. So in theory, you could win very, very early on in the game. Or if Katie can't get that pulled off, you could play the Guzzlord and Naganadel to just get 2 prize cards, which is honestly really, really scary as a GX attack. Now, you can obviously energy accelerate multiple times your Arceus, but also you can reuse any of your special energies by using that special charge, pretty much recycle all of your special energies from the discard pile. You could also play Wally, which after you get your setup, you could effectively play Wally, and then it's instantly just get like a Lugia out, especially if you go second, and also you got your Arceus out, and like I said, you could attack turn 1. Going second, which is honestly really, really scary. This is why I think Lugia is such a good powerhouse. That to me, I think is a really good inclusion to slow down any sort of key Pokemon in the active spot, i.e. like, well, I think about like Wobbuffet. Stopping that is a very, very good sort of effective one because you don't want to have your limitation. You want to be using Lugia V-Star sort of ability and not have any hindrance. So I do think that Fluttermane is a really good inclusion. And still a winner because you want to have a large bench size as well, but you don't want your opponent to have that as well. This is why I think Lugia is one of the strongest decks right now. There is so many powerful attacking options. You have an answer for nearly everything right now in the metagame. But there's just one deck which I think is just that little bit better. And that, of course, goes to Control. Control is an absolute beast in expanded format. As you can see, it did very, very well right now in the Champions League, and it has a huge range of the cost factor. You could build a deck for $80 or also $300. There is so many different range about why Control is so good. It's always evolving, it's always variable. And right now, I do think the latest one, the Plume Lock, is a really nice inclusion to really get started into Control. Now, you might look at this deck and go, what the earth is going on here? Why is there Neo Upper Energy? We just talked about and saw it. in the likes of Dragapult. But why is this in this expanded one? Well, you can attack with your Vileplumes, also the likes of Pidgeot EX. So you play lots of powerful support Pokemon with Vileplume. Obviously, you have the irritating pollen, which makes sure that your opponent can't use any, neither player can play any item cards. You also play the other one, the which makes sure the opponent can't damage you if it's a basic Pokemon. You need to play the likes of a Vileplume GX, which obviously is very, very strong for that GX attack, making sure your opponent is burnt, confused, and poisoned. It's absolutely scary, and you can really mill out your opponent from the likes of Bunnelby. Plus, because you can play a team of evolution onto Bunnelby, it has that Omega Barrage, making sure you can attack twice. So pretty much on your turn going second, you can search your deck and pretty much have 2 Vileplumes out, which is really, really scary. There's also Rotom Tiller, makes sure you can reuse any of your supporters, as well as also use the Burrow attack to really deck out your opponent. This is a very, very scary control archetype. Now I know this one does play the Firefighter Pikachu, but we don't have that legal, but the Japan exclusive. So if you do want to play that exact 60, I would recommend playing a second copy of Stars Jirachi to really mill out that special energy, which I do believe what the Pikachu is there for. The rest of it, you play a lot of very destructive supporter cards. And the rest are also the item cards. You only play Tag Call to get your Guzmahala, as well as also Buddy Buddy Poffin to really fill up your board state with nearly every single one of your basic Pokemon. I think this is a very, very scary deck for Control to really play with, and it has an answer to nearly everything. But if that's not your scheme, why don't you play sort of Ability Lock? And I really, really do like this deck. I think this is a little bit more of the budget-friendly one, depending on how much Iron Thorns and the likes of Unfair Stamp will be once it is legal. One thing I really like this one, because it has that really good answer. You can still attack with the deck as well, and not just rely on the fact that you're just there to Ability Lock. You play really good disrupting cards to try and mill out your opponent with lots of energy disruptions, Crushing Hammer, Enhanced Hammer, Team Flare Grunt, as well as also likes of Faber and Primaria. There are so many really, really scary sort of factors of this card. I'm forced to shut down lots of ability that rulebox abilities. We saw here RegDraco, Lugia, Palkia. All of these cards do really evolve around having a rule box Pokemon. Heck, even Electro GX, shutting them down with this is super, super strong. Even Wobbuffet as well is a really good basic Pokemon, really slow down nearly everything on the field. One thing I do like about this one, because you are still getting these prize cards, I think you can easily win from either decking your opponent out by milling out all their resources, as well as also taking prizes. This is one of the decks which I think is a really, really nice one, potentially could be the best way to play Control right now. Or if you want to be more aggressive and have that more item lock control, you could play this version as well. Again, you're really focusing on the likes of the Iron Thorns, but you also have that Garbodor as well. What I like about having a TM evolution on this one, making sure that you can pretty much get that Garbodor out going second, which is really, really scary for your opponent to deal with. Now, this is the card which I'm going to talk about, which is why sometimes Control is expensive. Tropical Beach. We have known this very, very scary card. It's one of these world's exclusive stadium cards, which makes you draw until you have 6, but your turn ends. Why is this really, really good? Because it's so good in Control in your setup turns, where you're just ending attaching and then waiting before you attack, so you can just draw and refresh your hand until you have 6. That's why this deck is definitely a lot more expensive. There could definitely be more options to play with, more destructive stadium cards, but this is definitely one thing which I think this works really well in this archetype. The rest of it as well, you do obviously play the Vikavolt and Luxray, which are really good destructing cards, either discarding cards from your opponent's hand, or in fact, making sure they can't play any item cards as well. I think this is a really, really good deck, and one of the best ways of how I would play Control right now. This did in fact get top 16, and I do really, really love this archetype. So, what do you think of my list for the top decks to play in Expanded right now? Has this given you a little bit of insight? Do you want to go and play some Expanded? Or do you want to see some more content of this on my channel? If you have, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below, what do you think is the best Expanded deck right now? I am a big, big fan of Palkia, and I will always be with this one. But I am starting to really like that item lock control deck, which I do think could do really, really well in the upcoming metagame. So, without further ado, my name is TCG, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Bye for now.